biggest business that our company has sold is around 60 million. That was the total amount of the sale.
Like, is there a website you can go to see what businesses you can buy?
Yes, BizBuySell is a popular one.
Okay.
But outside of BizBuySell, there's a lot of resources to find businesses.
What do you recommend to businesses out there who might be looking to exit in the next, say, 5 to 10 years, and they know that they don't have great books?
The most recent 3 years are your best friend. If you can't show your most recent 3 years income and expenses, you're gonna have a hard time attracting that top tier.
Cool. All right, I have my great friend Jake Taylor here. I'm super excited about this interview. Jake is somebody who is really a mentor to me. He's become a great friend, a colleague, and he's doing something really unique right now to help businesses. And we've been having a lot of conversation. I'm like, Jake, you got to come on the channel. You got to share what's going on. So I'm glad we made time to finally do this, man. We've been talking about doing this for a while.
Thanks for having me out.
Yeah.
This is awesome.
It is. So Jake works for the Menlo Group, and a lot of you know the Menlo Group for commercial real estate, but they also have a big umbrella of companies, and one of them is business brokerage. And you are a VP of business transitions.
That's correct.
And so I want to know, like, what does that really mean, like, for people that are looking to either buy or sell businesses?
So generally we work with sellers.
Okay.
And we're gonna scour the marketplace to find anyone who's interested in transitioning away from the business that they've owned. Many people have owned their business for 20, 30, 40 years. And we're finding, as you know, in your business, that there's a lot of baby boomers who are now at the age of retirement.
Yeah.
And so a lot of those same people are looking to sell their business, transition out, or transition into something new, maybe not so time intense for their schedules.
So what do you think are you allowed to say, like, what businesses you guys have sold? Like, do you have any that you're allowed to mention? Like, what's the biggest one you're allowed to mention?
Okay, so the biggest business that our company has sold is around 60 million.
Oh, wow.
60 million.
60 million in revenue?
And
or like that was the total cost of the sale?
That was the total amount of the sale.
Okay.
Yes.
Who are you finding is like really good candidates for this? Like what size businesses?
That's a good question. Currently I'm working with a online retailer.
Okay.
And they have 900 business to business relationships across the country, and their top line revenue is $50 million for this year.
Wow.
And I'm working with that company.
And they're a retailer, meaning are they like a medium, like an exchange for all these businesses to transact, like to sell on? Like, is there a website you can go to see what businesses you can buy?
Yes, BizBuySell is a popular one.
Okay.
But outside of BizBuySell, there's a lot of other resources to find businesses to sell. But coming to Menlo Business Brokerage is a really good way to start.
Okay. So if you're somebody who maybe like has retired and you want to buy a business, maybe you built a business and now you're looking to buy another business, or maybe you're looking to acquire a business as part of like a portfolio.
Okay.
Do they just contact you and then you give them like options, or how does that usually work?
So generally, we work with our network to find buyers who are interested in acquiring businesses. To be honest with you, most people are either expanding or selling.
Okay.
So most businesses are looking to either grow or sell for hopefully a multiple of this year's income.
Gotcha. How do you guys figure out multiples for different industries?
That's a good question. There's some general formulas to use. However, unlike real estate, so for example, if somebody bought your house, the sellers would be within probably 3 to 5% margin of each other, because everyone knows what the specific cost of real estate is, whether it's commercial property or residential property. With businesses, there's imperfect data points, meaning it's sort of like the value is in the eyes of the beholder, because an owner operator, for example, who's going to pick up an HVAC business, maybe he's going to risk the majority of his available assets to buy the HVAC business, and he's also going to need maybe an SBA loan to buy the business, and therefore his offer may not be as strong as a group of HVAC companies that are conglomerating so that they can sell for a much higher multiple to a hedge fund. And so those deeper pocket, they're known as credit buyers, would offer a different amount to acquire that same HVAC.
That makes total sense. Okay, yeah. So if I look at my own business, like it may not be a business that some people want to buy on the surface, but like somebody who's been operating a business like that for a long time would know the value of it and
Exactly.
what's available there. Do you guys ever sell holding companies that own real estate portfolios?
No,
Okay.
no, haven't had a chance to sell one of those yet, but
Do people come to you for those?
not at Menlo at the moment.
Okay.
But we work with hedge funds that we have connections that we can sell businesses up to many hundreds of millions of dollars.
Wow.
Generally, though, most small businesses are selling, I mean, that we work with are probably between $1 million and 50 million, I would say. It's kind of
So
our
do you
sweet
guys
spot.
work with venture capital? Like, do you guys have venture capitalists that come to you guys and say, hey, we want to buy these?
No,
Okay.
we seek them out, but we do have
Oh,
lists, we have buyers, and there's companies that we subscribe to services that sort of compile and conglomerate all of those companies that are
interesting.
buying, and so
Okay. I like
for a
that.
fee, we do.
What about businesses where they own the real estate too, like they own the building? Did you guys help with that process as well?
That's what's great about the Menlo Business Group,
Hmm.
is that they're underneath their umbrella. There's the commercial real estate side, there's a property management side, and there's a business brokerage. So in my office, I share with commercial real estate
So you
agents.
have all the resources right there to handle pretty much anything that could involve.
We have everything.
That's crazy.
Under Menlo Business Brokerage, we have actually two that are called they're called CVA, Certified Valuation Analysts.
Mhm.
And their specific skill is to go through businesses and find their actual value. And so
Wow.
from that basic value, then you start talking about, hey, what's the multiple of this business for this type of buyer, or what's the multiple of this business for this buyer subset? And it gets really interesting as you take those businesses to market. You realize, okay, who's the most likely buyer for this business? Is it going to be an owner operator,
Yeah.
or is it going to be a roll up of companies who are rolling up to possibly do an IPO or sell to a larger company? And so
Okay.
depending on what the best use of that business is, maybe we'll develop 2 or 3 different prospectuses based on the different buyer subsets.
Oh, nice. Wow. That's incredible. So can people come to you for like an appraisal?
Yes.
Okay. And do you guys just charge like a fee for that, or is that part of your service if they like retain you guys?
We don't charge a fee.
Okay.
As we get started, we're gonna do so. One of the first things we do is we intake on a new client, was we ask for 3 years of financials,
Okay.
Trailing 12 months profit and loss statement, and year-to-date P&L and balance sheet.
Okay. And there you get that from all their like tax attorneys, CPA?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what if it's a business where it's like a classic entrepreneur who's like great at running their business but terrible at keeping track of numbers? Like how do you help them? I'm sure you come across those like guys that have and gals that have like run businesses in the tens of millions, and you go to look at their P&L and they've been keeping track on like a piece of paper or something.
Well, I actually I'm working with the construction business right now.
Yeah.
They bring in about 20 million a year,
Okay.
and their expenses are about 16 to 17. So their income is somewhere between 2 and 3. But the accounting firm that they used over the last 2 years went out of business, and it was kind of an obscure accounting firm specifically for contractors. And he's scrambling right now trying to put all of his documents together.
God.
So you'd imagine, I mean, he's got a great business, but one of the buyers that I took his business to literally came back yesterday and said, hey man, we really need him to get his financials in order. So
Oh my
the
gosh.
devil's in the details. It's really hard to analyze a business's value without having,
data.
Yeah, proper financials in place.
What do you recommend to businesses out there who might be looking to exit in the next, say, 5 to 10 years, and they know that they don't have great books? Like, how would you recommend they get some trend lines in their business and things that would be helpful for their exit?
That is a great question. So the most recent 3 years are your best friend. If you can't show your most recent 3 years income and expenses, you're gonna have a hard time attracting that top tier buyer. Okay. Unless you have unless you can show that there's your profit margins are very substantial, which most businesses aren't selling in that position if the profit margins are that substantial. So I would say if you're looking to sell in the next 5 to 10 years, you want to have a conversation now to determine how you want to transition, because like I said, it takes 3 years of full preparation with not only documenting your finances, but the trend line that you said earlier. You want to show that your business is either staying steady or going up. if your business is trending downwards, you're going to have a hard time convincing somebody that your business is in a good spot, because
Makes
with
sense.
COVID showed us that most businesses that didn't evolve got shut down.
Oh my gosh.
And so there's
That's
black
so
swan
crazy.
events that happen,
Right.
but there's also market trends that happen. Like, good luck selling Xerox machines to mortgage offices right now.
Right.
But that was a big deal back in the late 90s.
Right. Wow, that's crazy. So, do you help people finance the businesses? Like, do you guys do a lot of like seller carries? Is everybody getting lending? Are you working with mostly cash buyers? How does that? Do you guys advise over seller carries?
We can advise over seller carries.
Mhm.
Generally, the seller, it just depends on the needs of the seller. But
Okay.
we work with cash buyers. We work with a plethora of SBA lenders and conventional lenders.
Okay.
We have bridge lenders that we work with. In fact, I'm working on a bridge loan right now for a hotel. It's not necessarily a business sell, but I'm working on a $15 million bridge loan for a property in Phoenix that the current owner wants to revamp the property and put a flagship of a Holiday Inn on that property. So he needs
Interesting.
money to renovate it, but because the margins are so tight, conventional SBA doesn't work. So they really needed a hard money lender who is also an FF&E contractor. FF&E stands for furnitures, fixtures, and equipment.
Interesting.
So somebody who really knows the industry, who would
Be willing to step in.
Yeah. So
how does that work? Walk me through a loan like that. So 15 million, they have a business. Are they collateralizing the hotel?
yes,
Okay, so it has hard collateral. What's the loan to value?
the LTV on those sorts of loans, they can't be more than, say, 55 to 60%.
Okay, so these are like super secure for the lender.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So they're in a good position. What do rates go for it? Something like that on a $15 million loan? Are they like real hard money, like 12% and stuff?
If you're most lenders won't. The reason I'm working on it is because it's been declined and declined and declined
Ah,
with other conventional lenders. I just happen to know a hard money lender who does FF&Es.
wow.
And so in this particular case, the interest rate is going to be somewhere between 12 and 14%.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what's the duration? What's the term of the loan?
It's interest only, and it's always negotiable when you get into these really unique boutique style situations.
Yeah.
Because the lender, they're going to go in there and look at the hotel and say, okay, this should be done in 18 months. So no longer than 18 months.
Right. But then there's got to be room because obviously you're working with contractors that gets messed up and delayed and
Yeah.
oh my gosh, that's crazy. So you can actually are you brokering this through Menlo or is this just something you're helping somebody with?
That's not through Menlo. That's
Okay.
something I'm helping somebody
Oh, okay.
with.
But you just have these relationships.
I have these relationships, and
Yeah.
because I've been in the mortgage business my entire career,
Yeah.
it kind of goes hand in glove.
That's pretty cool. I love that. So how would you help a business like ours where it's a family sale, right? So my dad,
Yes.
you know me, you know that next year he's going to transition the practice over to my wife and I,
Right.
and my mom. Who would you represent in our transaction? Would you be helping both of us? Like, can you be on both sides of the transaction?
Generally, there's only the listing broker. The
Okay.
business transaction. Sometimes there's a agent that comes in and represents the buyer,
Okay.
but generally the business broker represents the seller, and it's up to the buyer to do his own due diligence with his attorney and his CPA,
Okay.
because the buyer is going to know the business better than anybody.
Mhm.
No one's going to buy a Korean fried chicken restaurant if they don't know
They don't know the
Korean fried
recipes and
chicken.
all the stuff.
Yeah.
Interesting. So do you have any like resources at Menlo that helps kind of counsel or coach the seller or buyer through that transition? Like if you have somebody that's never owned a business before, or you have someone who's like, hey, should I stay on and advise the business or be hired back as a consultant? Like, do you guys provide any of that advice?
Absolutely. There are many different types of sales.
Mhm.
There's 100% sale where, you would, like in your situation, your dad is selling you the business,
Mhm.
but you already know the business. So
Yeah.
you don't need your dad to stay on at any specific time. Maybe he just wants to cash out, such as an annuity,
Mhm.
right? But you already know the business, so you don't need him to stay on. Maybe
Right.
you need him for a year to kind of give you a warm introduction to all the clients and say,
Yeah.
this is my son. I'll
Yeah.
take care of you. You have any questions, we can answer for you.
Interesting.
Uh,
If you have a seller who has a prospective buyer, but they need assistance with financing, do you have resources for that?
Yes, for buyer financing.
Yeah.
We work with lots and lots and lots of banks.
Okay.
So, but there are specific banks that say work with the veterinarian.
Okay.
There's specific banks that like to work with dentists, others that like to work with restaurants. So depending on the nuance of the business, the more general the business, just about any SBA lender or conventional lender can help them out.
Okay.
So there are lots of lenders.
And if you have somebody that wants to acquire commercial real estate, you have resources for that as well.
Yes.
That's amazing. What a great group, the Menlo Group. Do they do anything else? I mean, that's a lot.
The owners of Menlo are really one of the reasons I went to work with Menlo is because, sorry, man, I got sidetracked here.
No, it's okay.
So one of the reasons I went to work with Menlo is because one of the owners sold me my first commercial building back in 2008.
Really?
And I ran into him a couple months ago.
Was that a good experience in 2008 or was that a rough one?
Well, it was good and rough.
Okay.
As a young man, I think if you're in business, you need to have rough experiences so you can appreciate the good experiences.
Like, was it like pre 2008, like the crash, or was it like after?
It was I bought at the apex evaluation and I sold it for about a third of what I paid for it.
Holy cow.
Yeah, it was tough. It was tough.
Okay, so it was really rough, but you're saying it was good because you grew from that experience.
Yeah, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, right? And having that perspective is been critical to me in helping me, operate as a self-employed business person over the years.
That's amazing.
So,
man, I love it. It seems like your values, I know who you are as a person. I know your heart for service. It seems like it's totally aligned with this Menlo Group. Seems like they're the same. Their principles are the same. Or is that an Arizona-based business?
Yes, they're Arizona-based business. They met each other at getting their master's degree in business, and they kind of went their separate ways and came back to do the business brokerage and the commercial real estate brokerage.
That's amazing. So if you have someone out there who is looking to sell a business or acquire a business, what's the first step? How do they get a hold of you?
First step is to go to menlobusinessbrokers.com.
Okay.
And ask for information, menlobusinessbrokers.com, and we'll start the conversation. Again, when it comes down to valuing business, super tight financials are great.
Okay.
So whether you're looking to sell a business right now or 5 years from now, let's start the conversation.
Okay.
Because just like a mortgage loan, people don't apply for a mortgage loan a week before they get a house. You want to apply for a mortgage loan 6 months before just to make sure everything's copacetic.
Yeah, and I think that'd be wise to visit with you guys because you could give them the information or meet with them and their CPA or tax attorney now.
Yeah.
So they can start getting prepared, getting the books in order, the financials in order, everything organized.
100%.
That's awesome. Jake, thanks so much for coming on, man. I really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure.